Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing another Read This If video, and I haven't done one of these in a while, but I have a playlist down below that has all of my Read This If videos, and basically what these are like recommendation videos for a specific thing. So I think I've done Read This If you like short chapters, Read This If you like psychology. I don't remember all the ones. Oh, Read This If you like friends to lovers. I think I've done 4 of these videos so far, so this will be probably like my 5th one, I think. And this one is Read This If you like a good twist. Now I know that a lot of people don't like to know if a twist is coming, but sometimes you can just guess based on the cover. Like usually thrillers have a twist, like that's the whole point of a thriller, is they try to like get you with a twist. But these are some of the books that I found to be really satisfying when it comes to the twist. And it was just twists that I really loved. You know what I mean? Like twists that stuck with me for a really long time. And not all thriller twists stick with me. Like they can be good and they can be enjoyable in the moment, but like these ones, for some reason, it just stuck with me and I have remembered them for like a really long time after reading them. Also, I want to mention that some of these twists, some of you may feel were predictable, and that's totally fine. I feel like any twist can technically be predictable, or certain aspects of stories can be predictable. And sometimes when I read books, I'm trying to figure out what the twist is. Like I'm really kind of focused on figuring out the twist, but other times I'm not. I'm just kind of along for the ride. So sometimes I do figure them out and sometimes I don't. I think it just depends on what mood I'm in. So if you did figure out these twists and you didn't feel like they were the best twists ever, I feel like everyone is different. Sometimes you figure them out, sometimes you don't. It just depends on the person. It depends on the time you read it or whatever. There's a lot of variables to whether or not you figure out a twist. I personally like these twists and I thought they were really good, but I understand if you didn't, or maybe you figured them out. I didn't and I thought they were good. Okay, so the first book was actually a novella. I have 2 novellas for you guys, and both of these novellas had really great twists, and I really enjoyed them. So the first one is Dear Seraphina, and I read this on Audible, and this was a free, like, Audible novella. And I read this book in one day when I was doing a whole bunch of like chores and cleaning and stuff, so it was a really quick one. But the thing that I liked about this is this story went somewhere I did not expect. Like I did not know what I was getting into with this story. I just read it because it was free and it was a novella. And this is about a movie star named Seraphina, and she gets these really weird like letters from this superfan like every week. And this superfan kind of like treats her like a diary, right? Like all of her letters are very diary-like, where she just kind of tells her everything about herself. And Seraphina starts to get a little creeped out by these letters because they're just kind of weird and they kind of start to get a little bit weird. And so the FBI comes in and kind of looks at these letters and looks into these letters. And it's really interesting. Like I said, it went somewhere that I just was not expecting at all. I didn't know what I was getting into with this. And I feel like the twist with this one was fun and it was quick because it's a novella. And sometimes I feel like with books where you know that a twist is coming, you have to read like a whole like 350-page book just to get to the end where the twist is. And sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating, especially if the whole entirety of the book is a little bit slow or boring just for the twist. But with these little novellas, I feel like it's really satisfying because they're not super long. So you get that satisfying twist quicker than you normally would, if that makes sense. So Dear Seraphina, really good, and it's a very quick read. And that brings me to my next one, which was another novella on Audible, and this was free as well, which is crazy. But it is called Dirty Liar, and this is another one that I did not really know what I was getting myself into. It was a totally random pick, and I just like read it for, you know, just because it was there. And this is about a girl who is running through a forest, like she's going on a little jog, and she falls into this hole, and she doesn't know if this hole was put there specifically to capture her. She doesn't know if she fell into like just a hole on accident, like, and she's stuck there forever and she's gonna die in there. She doesn't know if somebody was just trying to catch somebody else and she just happened to fall in it. She's trying to figure out how she got in this hole and what this hole is here for. So she's trying to figure out how to get out. She's trying to figure out what to do, and it's just one of those really interesting like survival type stories. I love this because there was a twist in this book that I just was not expecting at all, and it was a twist that I had never seen done before. And that was a really cool thing when you experience something new as a reader that you've never experienced. And I feel like the way that the author went around this twist was very unique, and it was very creative. And I can always appreciate a writer that's creative, that comes up with really unique ideas. And I feel like this author really did that with this one. It was just a really creative book. And it was fast because it's a novella. Again, like I said, like I love just like being able to read a book in one day while I'm doing my chores and then you know, being really blown away by the twist is like really awesome. So this would be a great one too for a road trip, because I think it's only about like 3 hours maybe if you like speed up the time, but it was really, really good. So the next two are actually from the same author, but I'm going to talk about this one first because I actually have it on my shelf. This is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one is just really great because it's a suspense, but it's full of twists, and Taylor Adams is literally known for not just giving you one twist. He gives you multiple twists, and they just keep coming, and they keep like being thrown at you constantly through the whole entire story. And that's what I love about Taylor Adams, is he never lets up on the surprises. And this was the first book I read by him. This is about a girl who is driving over a snowy mountain pass, and she has to stop because the blizzard is just too bad, and she goes into this like rest stop, and she sees in one of the cars that there's a little kid in a cage, basically like locked in a cage, and she's trying to figure out who at this rest stop like has this kid in a cage in the back of the car, right? It's really, really good. It's really, really suspenseful, and it just has so many twists and turns. Like literally the king of throwing twists at you. Like I'm not even kidding. This had so many, and I was just so invested the whole time. And that brings me to the next one, which is The Last Word. Is it The Last Word? Yes. Which is funny because there's another book in this video that has like pretty much that exact same title. But so it's about this loner girl who lives like in a secluded little house on a hill in the middle of nowhere. She gives a 1-star rating to a book, and the author comes after her, basically. And this is another one of those books that I read via audio actually, and the twists, again, just like No Exit, they just kept coming and coming and coming. And I kept thinking like, okay, like this book is gonna be over soon. But it wasn't, and then like another twist would happen, and then I'm like, okay. And then another twist would happen, and then I'm like, okay. So they just kept happening. And like I said, that's just Taylor, I was gonna say Taylor Swift. Taylor Adams' writing style. Like he's just so good at that, and that's why I love his books so much. And that's, I don't know if that's just what he likes to do, like that's kind of his little, I don't know, what would you call it? Like his signature writing style is twist throwing. But I personally love that. Like I love twists, so when an author can just like keep throwing them at me like constantly, like I'm obsessed with that. So Taylor Adams is a great author, and this one was just like twist after twist. So the next one is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I think. And I loved this book. It was so good. I actually read this while I was like wrapping Christmas presents one year, and the twist in this one was really, really good. This one does catch you off guard, and it's just a really kind of like satisfying twist where it just is satisfying to read, if that makes sense. And if you love psychological thrillers, like I love a good psychological thriller, this is like the epitome of a psychological thriller that's just really good and really twisty, and it's just satisfying, if that makes sense. And to be honest, I can't remember all the details of this book because I was a little bit distracted while reading it because I was wrapping presents and stuff, but I do remember being very, very invested in this book and just wanting to read it constantly, and I was like trying to slow down my like present wrapping just so I could read this book longer. So I think that that's a really good sign if a book is good. And then just the ending was really satisfying. So if you want something that is satisfying at the end, this is a good one. Okay, so the next book is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. So this one is really, really popular, I feel like on like TikTok and stuff like that. And I actually found this at Goodwill, and I just randomly decided to pick it up one day. And this was the first Lisa Jewell book I ever read, which I'm a big fan of her now. I think she's a really, really great writer. But this one, like, I wasn't exactly sure where this book was going. It was really, really interesting. It's about this young girl who gets abducted. She just disappears one day, and her mom is trying to look for her, basically. And I know that sounds really boring, like literally the plot of about 1 million thriller books, but like this one was really unique for a lot of reasons, which I'm not gonna obviously spoil for you guys. But the thing about the ending of this one is I kind of got like teary-eyed with this one, which is weird because I am not a crier, but if I can like, if my eyes do glaze over, like it means that it hit something emotional in me, which is very, very rare. And I feel like if you're a parent, I would definitely recommend reading this one because there's just something about it that's kind of cool and unique. And it kind of like, you know when a twist like really wraps up a book and kind of gives the book more meaning and kind of like more purpose? Like it really made this whole book just come together as a whole. That's what the twist did in this one, which I can really, really appreciate. Like I love it when a twist just really makes a book feel complete and it just gives it a bit more emotion, and this one was really, really good for that reason. So I really, really liked this one. I highly recommend it. I was like hooked the entire time, and it was just it was a twist that I really appreciated. that caused me to tear up, which is, like I said, rare. Okay, so for this book, this one is, I think, one of my favorite twists of all time, which is saying a lot, but this is one of those twists that hit so flippin' hard for me that I was like, whoa. Like, it's so rare for a book. Like, I read a lot of twists, right? Like, twists happen in almost every thriller novel that you read, and some of them are really good, some of them do hit, but like, it's rare when you read one where you're like, that was so creative. And like I said, I love an author that's creative, and like this author had such a like planned out idea for this one that she was just weaving together, and I was like blown away by it because I thought I predicted it, and then I was like, whoa, like I did not see it going like that direction, you know what I mean? But it's Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, and this book, whenever somebody asks me like what's a book that has a really good twist, like recommend me a book with a good twist, this is the one I recommend every single time because I know that it's gonna get people every single time. Like, you just can't read this and not be surprised by it. So this is about a girl who like gets wrapped up in this couple, David and Adele is her name. And Adele is just like really a different type of person. She's really weird, kind of unique, but she's like drawn to her for some reason. And she can't figure out why Adele is so afraid of her husband. She's trying to stay close to Adele so she can kind of try to figure out like why she's so afraid of her husband, if she's in danger, all of that kind of thing. But it's weird. Like, that sounds like such a bland story, truly, about like a couple and when the man is controlling and this girl is trying to figure out why like Adele is scared. Like, that sounds boring. It just sounds like your basic domestic thriller. But this is not that. It's just very, very, very unique. This, if you're looking for a good thriller, is the way to freaking go. It has a twist of a lifetime, I'm telling you. So the next one is a book that I read on my Kindle, and it's called The Whispers and the Roars. And this one was really good, but it's really, 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 really dark. Check trigger warnings before you read this one because it is dark. And there's a lot of triggering things in it if you need trigger warnings, but it is really good. Now, this is actually one that I did predict the twist for, but if you don't predict the twist, like, this is one of those twists that could really catch you off guard and you'll be like, what the heck? Like, I know for a fact that if I wouldn't have gotten the twist with this one, like, I would have been really, really shocked. So this one is so good, and I was so interested in this book the entire time I was reading it. Like, when I wasn't reading this book, I was like thinking about reading this book, and I just wanted to read it so quickly. And it was just one of those really, really, really interesting books where the author takes a really interesting route with how she decides to write it, and I think that that's what made this book so interesting and what made the twist really interesting. And I personally really, really like this book, but just know going in that it's really dark. A lot of people I've seen like on TikTok and stuff, like that's the reason I read this book, was because of TikTok. Everyone that has read this that didn't get the twist were blown away by it. And they're just like, that is crazy. I was not expecting that at all. So definitely recommend it. Really, really good, but really, really dark. Okay, so the next book is a book that I read, and I would have to say I read this in probably like 2017 or 18, I think. This is probably one of the first books that I read that I was so utterly blown away by with a twist. Like, I just wasn't expecting a twist, and I was just like, what the heck? Like, that came out of the blue. Did not see that coming at all. And it was one of those things that just really, I had to like put the book down and be like, I didn't know I was reading a book like this. You know what I mean? And that is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. So this is a YA, and it's about a girl who has really bad obsessive compulsive disorder, and she hides it from everybody she knows. She's like popular in school, but none of her friends know that she has OCD. And she ends up finding this group of poets, and they're like underground poets, and at lunch they meet like in this little basement area, and they all kind of read their little like poems that they have written. So it's kind of just like a poetry club, I guess. And she discovers this poetry club, and she falls in love with writing poetry, and it really helps her kind of through her obsessive compulsive disorder and all of that kind of thing. It's a really, really good book. I love this book. It's one of my favorite books. But it's just one of those books that you're just not really expecting, if that makes sense. Like, you feel like you're just kind of reading a very simple, like, coming of age, like, girl in high school who's figuring out herself and stuff, and it's just a surprising little read. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I feel like it's really hard to make this video because I don't want to give anything away, obviously, but it's just a surprising little book. It's a book that you read and you don't really realize the kind of book you're reading while you're reading it, if that makes sense. So I really like this one. One of the first twists that ever got me to a degree where I actually had to put the book down and like contemplate the story I was reading. You know what I mean? And last, but certainly not least, is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, my favorite book of all time, or at least one of my favorite books of all time. This one is just so good. And this is one of those books where it's not like a twist, like that moment. You know, like I feel like some twists happen and it's just like a moment in the book. Like it could be one sentence that just changes everything. This isn't really like that as far as twist goes, but there's like this overarching like ending to this book that makes you contemplate everything that you ever thought about life and the world. And like, it just is such an interesting concept that is so intriguing at the end. And like the twist is like very long and drawn out. Like everything kind of comes together and like it's pieced together at the end. And it just makes you think and it just kind of blows your mind. And that's why I always say this has a good twist in it. Like, yes, it's a drawn out twist. It's not like a twist that just slaps you across the face. But the twist is something that just makes you think so freaking much. But I had to put this book in here because I do feel like it's kind of twisty at the end, you know? So that is it, you guys, for my books that have really great twists. I was gonna put some like second books in series in here, but then I was like, I can't really do that because I feel like you have to read the first book to read like the second book or whatever. So I didn't want to put like any series in here. One of the books I was gonna put in was this one. I sort of feel like has a little bit of a twist and it was really, really good. I don't know though. But this is the second book in the Ballad of Never After, but I really, really like this one. Another good twist would be Court of Mist and Fury. This is a great book, but it's the second book in the ACOTAR series, so you have to read the first one before you get to this one. But there's a really good ending that just kind of makes you panic. I love that one. Another good twist would be this one, which is House of Sky and Breath, the second book in the Crescent City series. The ending of this one, everyone is obsessed with it for a reason. Everyone is. But again, it's the second book in a series, so you know what I mean. But fantastic little surprise at the end. If you know, you know. So that is it, you guys, for my Read This If You Love a Good Plot Twist video. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any books that just blew your freaking mind with a plot twist. I'm really, really curious if you have any books that just literally blew your mind. Like it's a plot twist that you will never freaking forget, or maybe the book that you always recommend to people if they want a plot twist in a book or something like that, because I love a good plot twist. So if I can find more of these books, because I think it's rare. Like I think it's rare when you have books that just blow your mind more than other thrillers do. Like when you have those experiences, like they really, really stick out to you. So I really want to know what your guys' recommendations are. So that is it, you guys, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!